make time as like a metric so that you can sell ads in a space that can't really be tracked conventionally? Right? So like would an example be like how Snapchat might not have like a click out, yet it led to DJ Khaled's selling whatever millions of stuff?
Yeah, I mean, maybe not using that as an example. I'm sort of vaguely familiar with that, but I'll tell you a little bit about what we're doing. So what we do is we just sell on a cost per second. The ad formats that Eric showed you, those ads that sort of slide across the screen, is one of the ways in which we are able to sell what we call attention. And attention simply for us is just the amount of time somebody chooses to keep an ad on screen for. So what we are tasked with doing, as Derek sort of very articulately mentioned, we're mining for attention in various places using certain publishers or times of day or data segments, et cetera, where we think that people are more inclined to spend time with a certain message, knowing what we know about them or where they are. And what we know, based on a lot of the data that we've been able to accrue, is that just the more time you can get somebody to spend with a piece of content, the more likely it is that content is going to resonate with them. So what we do is we sell media on a cost per second basis. Rather than selling on impressions and sort of hoping for attention, we're just selling the amount of time that people are actually opting in for the experience that we consume by them. Yeah, go ahead.
So does this, a lot of conversation around click fraud.
Sure.
Is this a way of like around that? I know that's a huge challenge in the space, and we buy a lot on impressions.
Sure.
So, and one of the big challenges is always how trustworthy are the clicks that we're paying for, right? And so is this a way around that, or is it in addition to?
Yeah.
And I think this, I'm sorry.
No, fine.
I think a young woman over here said something about, like, can you equate the time to a dollar metric?
Yep.
But at the end of the day, that's really what we want.
Yeah, so I'll unwrap a little bit there. So there is an awful lot of sort of opacity in the impression-based market. When you create any market, they're going to manage to the metric. And right now, what the CPM marketplace incentivizes publishers to do is to just run as many ads as they possibly can on a page, right? And the reason that there's bots is because those bots are just looking for looking for places that are serving lots of impressions so that whomever's on the receiving end of those bots can just get paid. And that's fraud. It's fraudulent. And you can use that as a proxy for clicks. You can use a proxy for impressions. It doesn't matter. Click fraud is very simple, right? If a robot clicks on your ad, there's no value there for anybody. If a bot looks at Derek's ad, there's no value in that for anybody. So the industry has to clean itself up in a little bit, and there are some companies out there that are trying to fix that problem. That's not really what we're tasked with doing. What we're trying to do is to create a little bit more predictability in what it comes to the amount of time you're getting for people to spend with your ad. There are a few ancillary benefits of doing this, which is it is not as susceptible to click fraud or as susceptible to bot fraud from what we've seen. Because of the nature of the ad format, you kind of need a human gesture to scroll the ad on the screen, and there are bots generally don't do this, unless you know of any bots that like to scroll around on ad pages, which God bless you if you do.
Well, he's going to tell us, right, if the bot has a thumb, right?
Right, exactly. So, yeah, this is good. So what we're trying to do, though, is to give brands and to give people like Derek, media buyers, more certainty and predictability around what they're actually buying when they're buying media in digital. Right now, you can buy 1 million impressions, but you don't know if those impressions are served in view. You don't know how many other ads are on the page. You don't know if it's a human being look at your ads. There's so many questions that go into that. And so if we can strip all those questions away and just create a marketplace that's strictly built on the amount of time somebody spends with an ad, those questions tend to take a little bit of a back seat. More than anything else, the problem that we solve indirectly are things like viewability, right? You guys all familiar with viewability? Basically, about 5 or 6 years ago, advertisers started realizing that about 50% of all of their ads were never served in the viewport of the monitor itself, right? And so the $10 CPMs that they were paying were actually $20 because if a tree falls in a forest, does anybody see it? If an ad gets served below the fold, does anybody see it? No. So the mechanics that we've put into place with the cost per second solution that we have is that the timer for the ad to be on screen doesn't begin until the ad reaches a viewable standard. So we sort of answer those questions for our clients without even having to do anything. So what I think, Derek and I talk quite a bit about this, is that all these questions that he's forced to ask his vendors are questions that have metastasized because of the impression-based marketplace. And we don't think that those are questions that you have to ask when you take on a different approach like a time metric. So that was a lot, but I'm happy to sort of dive in any deeper on things that you have.
No, that was good.
Great.
I appreciate that.
Sure.
I would say that whatever action you're trying to have the end user take, do not force them onto the platform that they are currently in. And that's one approach and one solution, because you guys do it so well. We're able to feed our content without having that person leave their initial experience, much like what's happening in social. And that's why we're seeing such strong success with the engagement from our campaigns, is that we're not forcing people off to our .com to then engage with our content, which we know doesn't work, which we know if we're going to put someone else on the site to then drive a conversion, you have to worry about that back-end tracking. You have to worry about whether or not those were accidental clicks. You have to worry about, to a lot of extent, there's going to be a lot of drop-off. But if you can put it in the experience, house it there, then you can optimize towards it right then and there.
Yep, that's always heard it.
Yeah.
So how have you introduced this to clients within their media plan? Have you maybe set up test and learns to get them introduced to it, get comfortable with it? How have you approached introducing it to sell it in as a viable alternative?
That's a great question. I would say when we first started, we were CPM. You guys first started as CPM models, and then we slowly moved into this cost per second. And what we did was just show them kind of the difference and identify, what are the benefits of moving to this model. A lot of the stuff that Zach talked about were built-in capabilities already existing, but because we start with cost per second, we're able to, out of the box, optimize towards the metric that we care about the most. If we do a CPM, we're not necessarily optimizing towards engagement, right, in real time. But if we move to cost per second, that's what we're doing in real time. So what they do is they see a campaign before on a CPM basis, and you might want to do a A/B test CPM and then a CPS buy, and then you could see the incremental lift and the end goal that you guys want the user to engage with.
Yeah, what we find is in our business, when you have you look at media in general, there's a lot of vested interests that have invested a lot of money in CPM, and my job and my team's job, it's not easy. It's a hell of a lot of fun because we think we've sort of devised a better mousetrap. The conversations we generally have go in three directions. The first is you just get the early adopters that are enabled by their clients to just try new things. And Derek is a testament to that. I mean, when we first started, Derek and I sat down in November last year talking about time-based advertising. I was like, yeah, this sounds like this makes a lot of sense. You don't have to prove it to me now. Let's make it work. There are only so many of those people out there, unfortunately. We wish there were more. Step two are sort of like the skeptics, right? You start to make an argument that duration of time and exposure to an ad have benefits that are more predictable than buying impressions. And the feedback you get from them is that makes a lot of sense, but come back to me when you have a little bit more data. And then you get step three, which is sort of mass market adoption, or what I call organic growth, which is we've done such a good job of seeding the market and convincing people that what we've done is actually meaningful that people start to come back to us. Hey, we've heard from you from X, Y, and Z. We'd like to work with you. We're sort of right now in the tail end of step one, where we're still having conversations with people that are leading to, hey, let's just give you this amount of test budget. And we have something coming up in Q1 that we think this would be a good fit for, just to see how it works. Let's run a study. We like to talk about Eric a lot because he's so tall. He's also exceptionally capable. But we really want to give our clients all the feeling in the world that when they work with us for the very first time, that they're actually gleaning useful information out of it. It's not just, how did we do? Your click-through rate was good. That's so far down market from where I think we can go, which is, how do we do? Your creative on this side was better than your creative here. Or, hey, this audience is spending more time than this audience. The insights that we're surfacing are so robust that it's creating a really nice feedback loop. And so what's happening is that people like Derek are coming to us and we're starting to create really strong relationships with them. And that's starting to beget the skeptics from coming out and saying, hey, now you have the data. Now let's talk about working together. And then, we think that as we start to iterate and just create larger and larger market share and sort of time-based, that these types of relationships are just going to happen more and more organically. Yeah.
Question. So if we make the assumption that the CPS model is going to produce more ROI than CPM,
Yeah.
and the assumption that creative is obviously going to make a difference.
Sure.
I think this might be more for Derek, but maybe for you as well. Are you seeing drastic differences with those ideas in mind, but across different industries of who you're advertising for that are more successful than others? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I can cover that. Nico talk specifically. Sure. So our goal is to, right now we have sort of a managed service, right? It is me and the rest of the Parsec sales team that goes out there and tries to convince brands to buy media on a time metric. And those are always really great conversations. The goal in the long term is, can we actually create a marketplace that will enable brands to bid on a cost per second basis for the attention that they want from the people that they want? We're not there yet, but I think to sort of get to that point requires a lot of intelligence on how the market is sort of reacting. So things that we see that perform really, really well is just endemic placement of content on certain sites. We run an ad for BMW and you put it on Car and Driver, it tends to do pretty well. And that's not surprising. Same goes for CPG. When you have a product that's meant for pets, pet food, and you put it on a dog enthusiast site, it tends to do pretty well. So that's sort of the lowest hanging fruit for us to start to get in front of. Then you start to take a step forward, which is a lot of the stuff that Eric and his team work on, which is where are the sort of, not the black swans, but where are the untapped markets that we think we can actually get people to spend time with your ad? If we swap those two things, we put a BMW ad on a pet food site, would it do any worse or any better? And that would be really, really interesting for us to know. And then you start to actually surface audience-based insights where we can go to you or to Derek or whomever and say, we know that women who live in Minneapolis between the hours of 8 and 12 on Tuesday are 10 times more likely to buy your product. And we know that because they've spent 15 seconds or more with your ad, and that is indicative of a behavior that we think is intended to buy. And those are the types of insights that we're starting to surface. What I can't say is it more efficient at driving end-to-end sales? It's not really what the intention of cost per second is. Our intention is to create more specificity and more predictability on upper funnel tactics that lead to down market sales, down funnel sales. So one of the things that we're working on quite a bit on for a CPG advertiser is cooking people who have spent more than 15 seconds with an ad, with the idea being that at some point in the near future, that's a really valuable audience for that person to retarget with a message that's going to convince those people to buy. That's the kind of stuff that we're after, which is not necessarily saying what is the direct ROI, but it's how much more intelligent can we get about how we deploy our media capital using time-based advertising as the upper funnel consideration. Yeah.
Just a really quick answer to your question. I don't think, I can't count the number of times a colleague has come up to me and said, I just saw your ad, the other day, the swiping ad this weekend, or my father saw a swiping ad on a publisher that he reads every day, and I don't get that kind of feedback or recall from any other digital ad that we do that's in the wild. And I think that's just a testament to the experience that we created that's like really memorable. And I know that person, I don't know if he watched the full video, I don't know if he made a click through, but that type of reaction is something that it's been missing in the mobile space, right? Because we have fundamentally, like 2 years ago, I've worked with the millennials, I've worked with the operas and the big ones that just really could care less about user experience, could care less about your business objectives. And these guys, they create experiences that people want to engage with. And I think that's what you have to marry into, because at the end of the day, it is going to be an engagement model. Yeah. That's what you're looking for. You're looking for people to want to enjoy something from the brand, and whether or not that ends up being a purchase, I think that is further down the solution right now. But I think that's something that these guys can optimize towards, just like they optimize towards engagement for us.
Yeah, we find ourselves, with respect to Derek's client, saying Derek's client is very fond of longer form video, and I think in the mobile space, long form video may not be the perfect creative conduit. We've talked quite a bit about what if we could short the video to 10 seconds? What if we could short the videos to 6 seconds? And we start to see where drop off happens on these videos because we're looking at duration of exposure. And in our mind, having been a media buyer myself, it is so much better than having your client ask you, hey, how are you doing? And saying, well, our click-through rate is really good, and I don't think anybody really buys that means a whole lot. Whereas we can say, well, we know that people that are spending more time with our ads are remembering our brand more, or they're showing more intent to buy our product, or they're more eager to hear more from us. Like that's an insight. That's so much better than looking at something that I think is what CPM does, which is just looking at two metrics, CPM and CTR and CPC, and just crossing your fingers and hoping you're getting good stuff. I think we have gone severely over, so I appreciate everybody patience. Any other questions, we're happy to take them, but if not, Yeah, please.
Just out of curiosity, you were talking about first movers,
Sure.
people who are eager to adopt your product. What industry does that tend to be?
Yeah, our largest accounts are auto, entertainment, financial services, and luxury. And there's some commonality actually between those four, which is they tend to be very heavy print advertisers. And I think that because they're heavy print advertisers, there's a little more receptivity to this idea that you can turn the pages of a magazine, see a full page ad, decide how much time you want to spend with that ad, and then continue turning when you're done. That the behavior, the sort of cognitive load on how we surface the ad format is very similar to a print ad. So I think that those have been the clients that we found the most receptivity to. And as a result, the supply that we work on, the publishers that we work on are commensurate with that. So folks like the Wall Street Journal or Business Insider or Forbes or New York Times are willing to work with us because we have the advertisers that are sort of befitting of those brands.
When we say financial services, are you mean more investment clients that have an investment company or banking? I'm just asking because we have a client.
Yeah, sure.
It's
That's okay. Yeah, it's both. There's really, I mean, it's everything from credit card signups, not signups, let me rephrase. Credit cards that are branding opportunities like relaunches to financial services to investment banking. That's sort of where we are. We have run insurance, yes, absolutely. Travel and tourism is really cool too because, I'll tell you why, somebody sees an ad, spends time with it, and they go to the Turks and Caicos, and we're running an ad for the Turks and Caicos tourism board. You can start to create correlations between like, wow, we know that somebody spent 15 seconds with an ad, ended up in your country. And that's really cool. I think that there's a bigger conversation on attribution that this industry doesn't want to have, which is, attribution is a really funny thing, right? Last touch attribution, like, oh, Google got this click and they bought this product, therefore Google gets 100% of the credit. That's unfair because there's so many things that led up to that person deciding to click on that ad. You know, it's almost like, did my second grade teacher have any impact on my college thesis? Like maybe. There's like, it's there, but like you can't really suss it out. So we're not here to say that like if people spend more time, they're gonna do what you want. What I think we're trying to say is if people spend more time, there's a higher degree of likelihood that they're gonna do what you want. And that predictability is something that impression-based buying just doesn't really let you do because there's so many other variants that go into how those things work. Sure, my pleasure. Well, thank you guys for coming. It's great.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, good.